You said academic Yasir Qadhi, and I thought in my head I thought epidemic Yasir Qadhi for whenever he causes some chaos again.
Yep, and well, how much Yasir Qadhi? Let me just say, if you never do anything to help us ever again, just know that you've done plenty. You've done plenty. You have served your purpose, and if you are in fact being paid by Mossad for all that, I hope you're paid well, compensated well. If not, let me know. I will make sure you get some money out of this because you deserve it, buddy. You deserve it.
I will talk to my guys.
We'll do a GoFundMe for Yasir Qadhi. Long story short, several years ago, Yasir Qadhi had exposed the holes in the narrative and destroyed a lot of people's confidence in the Qur'an. Well, now we have Holes in the Narrative 2.0, where he destroys their confidence in the Hadith, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yasir Qadhi, for one brief moment in his life, tells the truth. And the moment he opens his mouth and tells the truth, all the Dawah guys have to declare war on him because they're worried about him destroying the faith of Muslims. So that happened with the Holes in the Narrative. For just a little bit of his entire career, he was finally honest because he was forced into that position. He was forced into that position where everyone's paying attention to him, and he's being called for emails that Fareed leaked and so on. And so he couldn't just blurt out the standard narrative anymore. And so he had to admit that Muslims have been misled by these claims. They bought into a bunch of Dawah lies. He did not want to acknowledge the truth, but he let way too much out. The Muslim community lost their minds, and so the Dawah guys had to attack him. Shame on him, and then he had to try and save face and so on by attacking us. Little side note, everyone. Watch every time one of these guys embarrasses himself. Every single time one of these guys just completely embarrasses himself and gets called out by the rest of the ummah, every single time they will instantly either start blasting away at Islamophobes or start blasting away at Jews in Israel or start blasting away at like Hindutva or something like that. 100% of the time. Why? Because if the ummah is attacking you, you have to demonstrate your value to the ummah once again and say, look how important I am. You shouldn't be attacking me. I'm so important. Just watch the fallout and watch Yasir Qadhi declare war on us, war on Israel, all this stuff. But anyway, that's what happened several years ago. And now we've got 2.0 where he blasts the Hadith and says, basically, Islamic Hadith methodology is garbage to academics, and no serious academic would take this seriously. And so he acknowledges he has to live a double life. He lives one life where he's interacting with scholars, not scholars in the Muslim sense, like academic scholars and like non-Muslim scholars and so on. He lives one life there, and then when he's talking to Muslims, he has to turn all that off and just operate by faith. And so the academic Yasir Qadhi knows the Hadith cannot stand up to scrutiny, but the devout Muslim Yasir Qadhi, he just accepts it all and quotes the Hadith as if this is actually the words of Muhammad. Awesome stuff. So people are flipping out on him. Same thing has happened last time. They're blasting away at him. These are fun times.
Every single student of knowledge knows, who studies ulum al-Qur'an, that the most difficult topics are ahruf and qira'at, and the concept of ahruf and the reality of ahruf, and the relationship of the Uthmanic Mus'haf with the ahruf, and the preservation of the ahruf. Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 7? And the relationship of the qira'at to the ahruf. This is a topic that when you're the beginning student of knowledge, you're like, what is all of this going on here? When you go a little bit more, you learn to simply memorize what your teachers say and regurgitate it out, and you don't fully comprehend. When you do a deep dive is when things get very, very awkward and difficult. And this is
just wanted to point out that first little bit, guys. When you're at the very beginning of becoming a student of knowledge, you're actually starting to study the text of the Quran and things like that. You go, what is all this stuff? Why? Because you've been told all your life, no variance, perfect preservation, dot for dot. And then as soon as you start studying, they start talking about different Qurans and or the ahruf and Uthman burning all the Qurans to cover up the differences and so on. And you're like, what is this? What is this stuff? So that's what happens at the beginning. Then you start learning from your scholars and they tell you, oh, this is easy. We have all this stuff figured out. Yeah. And you memorize this stuff. And then, of course, if you do a deep dive, you study even more, you start realizing, these explanations don't make any sense at all. They don't actually work.
This isn't new. This is from the time of the Sahaba. This is not a joke, brothers and sisters. The issue of ahruf and qira'at caused confusion to somebody whom the Prophet ﷺ said, if you want to listen to the Quran directly, listen to Ubay. Ubay is not some even average Sahabi. He is the Qari of the Quran. He is the master. He is who he is. And he goes, فَدَخَلْ فِي نَفْسِي شَكْ. What is all of this stuff? Again, this is you're asking some very honest question. This is the first time I'm saying these things. Many people are aware who listen to my lecture.
First time I'm saying these things. What he means first time he's saying this stuff in public. But think about this. This guy's been speaking publicly for years. And it's first time I'm saying, first time what? You're pointing out that this, well, he's about to point out that the standard narrative has holes in it. But he's one of the guys who spread the lie. And matter of fact, his dad was spreading the lie.
That I've mentioned, the crises that happened to me at Yale. This was the issue. That the issue of ahruf and preservation and qira'at and relationships between them, these are very, very difficult issues. And the most advanced of our scholars, they're not quite fully certain how to solve all of the unanswered questions in there. Here's the point. These issues should only be...
Imagine my two favorite guys on the same screen. Gosh.
Discussed amongst people who know what the qira'at are and who understand some of these questions that are being
so
raised.
Is what you're saying the shak that came, or not the shak, but the crisis that you had was in relation to this question of the relationship between the ahruf and the qira'at, basically?
No. The crisis I had wasn't that. The crisis I had was, that was what generated. But what was the crisis? The crisis was very simple. Traditional understandings of ahruf and qira'at cannot answer some of these pressing questions that are now being poked by our people by their academics outside of the faith tradition. You see, in a Muslim environment, there's always some respect that we have for the Quran. We should. In a Muslim environment, we'll press a little bit and then we'll say, okay, khalas, sami'na wa ata'na. And that's great, alhamdulillah. When you go to academia, they don't have that red line. And they're going to just, the famous story of the emperor with no clothes. They're going to just point out, no, that doesn't make any sense. Well, that's...
My goodness, guys. I forgot about how brutal this was.
What he says there is actually very, very, very interesting.
It's extremely interesting and honest. And these are like the few minutes of his life where he was actually forced to be honest. And did you catch that? Muslims will push a little bit, but, we're not going to push too hard. And if someone gives an answer in defense of the Quran, we might, try to see if it's acceptable or not, but we're not going to push too hard because we don't want to be attacking the Quran. He says the non-Muslim academics, they don't have that red line. So they'll say, hey, the emperor's got no clothes. What he applied the story, the emperor's new clothes, where he's actually walking around naked. And it's like a young boy who's like, what are you doing? He's got no clothes on. But everyone's pretending like they can see his clothes and stuff because they're told you'll be stupid if you don't. He's saying that's like the scholars, the non-Muslim scholars, are like the boy saying, dude, you guys are naked, man. This is all just complete nonsense. And the reason it's important, watch what he says here.
When you go to academia, they don't have that red line. And they're going to just, the famous story of the emperor with no clothes. They're going to just point out, no, that doesn't make any sense. Well, that's not true, and this and that. And they'll bring issues, which I'm not going to mention explicitly, that are true because they're in your own books. They're not inventing anything new. They'll bring...
You catch that, AP?
Which I'm not mentioning explicitly.
He says, the scholars will bring up these issues. So you give your memorized response that supposedly defends the Quran and so on. They call you out for basically not having any clothes. So you're actually naked. And he says, and they're right because they're quoting your sources. What's that mean? He's saying it's the academics who are correct, even according to our sources. They're correct. They're pointing it out. And it's the Muslims who are just regurgitating stuff they memorized, and it cannot stand up to scrutiny. It can't stand up to scrutiny. You know,
they'll bring you riwayat and they'll bring you athar, and then you add to that very well-known issues of, I don't even want to be explicit. And then you bring on top of that makhtutat, and then. And it's very clear to you and to every single very advanced student and specialist that the standard narrative has holes in it. That's what
the standard narrative. So we kind of used that when it came out. We kind of used that to say the standard narrative about the perfect preservation of the Quran and so on. No, and you know, he is attacking the standard narrative, but he's not. He's attacking. What he's saying is much worse. He's saying the standard narrative about how Muslim scholars and students of knowledge can try to explain all these differences while still believing in this amazing preservation of the Quran. The narratives we come up with about the ahruf and the Uthmanic recension and the kirat and all this and how we tie all this, how we work all this together, that's the narrative that has holes in it. We can't, it doesn't work. Our explanations do not work. And we're finding out from non-Muslim academics who are blasting at our explanations, this is his crisis of faith. We can't actually explain this. We pretend like we can, but these guys are coming out saying, come on, the emperor's got no clothes. He's just naked, admit it. And he's saying, you know, they're right because they're quoting our sources to us to show us that our explanations do not work in defense of the Quran. We'll go ahead and check that out. Everyone ready? AP, be prepared. You haven't seen this, have you? Have you seen this clip even?
No.
Be prepared to have your mind blown at the fact that Yasir Qadhi is honest for 5 seconds again. No, he's honest for 4 minutes, 4 whole minutes. That's a record for Yasir Qadhi. Here we go.
My preliminary conclusion is there is no middle ground. And historical critical method and isnad analysis are two diametrically opposed ways of looking at early Islam and reports, and I don't find much commonality between them.
What happened to his voice, man? Is he trying to be masculine or something?
I have no idea. But so, guys, he's saying there's no middle ground. They're just completely opposed ways of doing things. The historical critical method, that's what historians use, and then isnad criticism is the Muslim method. And you in theory, I guess, try to reconcile them or try to bridge them. And he's saying does not work. You kind of have to pick one based on which hat you're wearing at a given time. But let's see.
As of yet, obviously in small areas, yeah, but overall, two diametrically opposed epistemologies. That having been said, therefore, one will have to navigate the religious side of things if you are a believing Sunni, Hadith believer, in a different epistemology. And when you are arguing in the academic world, you'll have to use a different epistemology. So in some areas, there's good, healthy overlap. In some areas, we'll politely agree to disagree. And in some areas, they're diametrically opposed. This is my preliminary analysis, and I would love to be proven wrong. And I would love for somebody to come and say, no, you are absolutely incorrect. And we can prove hadith via the historical critical method. And this is how we do it.
Spoiler alert, that's never going to happen, Yasir Qadhi, because your hadith methodology is garbage. So no one's ever going to refute what you're saying right now, namely that they're diametrically opposed ways. So it's never going to happen. What will happen is they'll try and shame you and threaten you and so on and destroy your career, because that's how things work in Islam. So they're not going to actually refute you.
That's what I would do.
They'll just try to shame you into keeping your mouth shut for the rest of your life, which tells us all something about Islam. So thank you for the education.
And I would literally thank that person and be the first to buy the book and love to see it. As of yet, though, I'm a little bit pessimistic, and I don't see there to be much of a commonality. So we're going to have to simply say, if you believe in that the Sunnah has been preserved by the Hadith, you're going to have to follow a certain epistemology, a certain paradigm. And if you are, like, as you're aware, and you're an academic channel, right? You're well aware, nobody in the academy affirms the Muslim Sunni science of Hadith.
Did you catch that? No one in the academic realm affirms that this is a good methodology that should be taken seriously. Ouch.
Nobody. It is
Ouch.
Considered to be completely discredited. I'm just.
Wow, man, he just has to double down with the
That's
wording.
what he said. That's what he everyone, that just happened. You are not imagining this. You are not dreaming. Allah's not tricking you into believing that just happened. That really happened.
Wait, we got to play it again, man.
Like, can you play it again so people don't miss it? It's very important.
We can play it 100 times. We could just spend the rest of this live stream. We got other stuff to look at, but as far as I'm concerned, we could spend the rest of this live stream replaying that right there. It's considered completely discredited by actual historians, real historians. People who are trained historians. They look at that methodology and they think it's a joke. It is a complete joke to them. And Yasir, we've known that. Yasir Qadhi just admitted it. Thank you, Yasir Qadhi. You're worth every penny.
Affirms the Muslim Sunni science of Hadith. Nobody. It is considered to be completely discredited. I'm just being factual. I'm describing. I'm not saying which one is right or wrong. I'm just saying the max you'll get, like Harold Motsky and others are going to say, well, like, as you're aware, and you're an academic channel, right? You're well aware. Nobody in the academy affirms the Muslim Sunni science of Hadith. Nobody. It is considered to be completely discredited. I'm just being factual. I'm describing. I'm not saying which one is right or wrong. I'm just saying the max you'll get, like Harold Motsky and others are.
What's up?
We have said this forever, haven't we? I mean, lots of us have said this forever because, and Muslims keep coming with this whole thing. Oh no, you don't even have a chain of narration. Whereas we in Islam,
yeah, that's Sajid. You don't even have the isnad, man.
Yeah, you ain't got the isnad, man. But it's like, dude, this is something important and something significant in Islam to Muslims only by Muslim standards. We have said this forever.
Without Hadith, they wouldn't know how to use Muhammad as judge in everything. Surah 331. Allah, if you love Allah, you follow Muhammad. How do you follow Muhammad? Hadith. Surah 8, verse 12, verse 13. The verse where expresses Allah and his angels are terrorists. And how do you deal with that? Oh, well, if you go, it says like, if you oppose Allah's messenger. So what do you need to know about Allah's messenger so that you don't oppose, that you are not under the terror of Allah and his angels? So they are desperately need Hadith. And then Yasir Qadhi steps in and then says, guys, by the way, I've been dealing with this conflict for a long time now, but I would like to express that historians are simply discrediting the Hadith.
I have to say, this is a really awkward position because both sides are basically right about something, right? So the Quran-only Muslims, they understand the Hadith is basically a garbage system, so they're calling it out. The Sunni Muslims understand without the Hadith, the Quran falls apart. So it's like either way, we are in all kinds of trouble. This would be like a new Islamic dilemma. Hadith or no Hadith? You got to pick one.
The max you'll get, like Harold Motsky and others are going to say, well, we can say that some hadith definitely go back to some tabi'un. You know, that's like the max you can say. As for definitively stating that the hadith go back to the Prophet ﷺ, at this stage of my life, I will have to say, this is what I say as a believer, not as an academic.
Catch that, AP? Two worlds. This is what I say as a believer, not as an academic. As an academic, I cannot defend this. I cannot defend this as an academic. So I just have to say, I believe in this because I'm a Muslim and I've accepted this. Can I defend it against criticism? No, not at all. I give up.
exactly what I just was trying to point out here. What he just said is
Thank
so
you
Muslims-
for proving AP right, Yasir Qadhi, and for agreeing
Muslims-
100% with the Apostate Prophet on this issue and the conundrum you're in.
This is exactly what I just meant. So Muslims come to us and try to argue in our faces that that Islam is completely reliable and completely trustworthy. Of course, if we have any questions about it, it's just because we don't know anything, or because we are unreliable and dishonest. And how can we even trust our own sources and all that? And Islam is completely affirmed. Everybody knows it. Here is Yasir Qadhi saying exactly what I just speculated and what I just talked about, which is that yes, as a believer, you can believe in that and you can affirm that. However, as an academic, if you put belief and your religious biases aside, there is no way that you can actually affirm the Islamic Hadith sciences and the reliability of the Hadiths, and by extension, therefore, also the reliability of the Quran. I'm sorry. And he is going to make a distinction probably and say, oh, the Quran, Quran, totally firm, totally sure, totally no doubt. But he knows very well that the Quran also relies on the Hadith sciences, as they ironically call it. And if you can only affirm the Quran science, the Hadith sciences, if you are a Muslim. So when Muslims come to me from now on, or if we accept Yasir Qadhi's world here, if Muslims come to me and they say, well, are you stupid? This is all confirmed. This is all authentic. We have our chain of narrations, our chain of narratives. How can you doubt this? Are you stupid? I can point at Yasir Qadhi and say, Yasir Qadhi is a scholar. And he admits that this is only something that you would use as authentic and reliable if you are a believing and trusting Muslim. You can't really use that outside of your Islamic biases. You cannot use it in academia where it is actually subject to scrutiny. So therefore, you can't expect me to accept your methods of reliability here. It doesn't work. It is only for you Muslims. And if we have to put our biases aside and sit down and evaluate whether these things are reliable or not, we have to conclude that they are not very reliable. So therefore, I win.